Hello and welcome to the Vesta Group's webinar on SuiteAnalytics. The webinar today will be presented by Ross Cortese, who is one of our consulting leaders, who's been working with the SuiteAnalytics product since its debut. He's been helping customers strategize about data, about how to use the product, and then how to implement the product. Ross also likes to troll hole-in-the-wall restaurants and will eat tacos from places that will kill the average human. So with that, I will hand it over to Ross and let you take it away.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Again, thank you all for joining us here today. We are going to talk about SuiteAnalytics. SuiteAnalytics is something that debuted from NetSuite in a beta version in the second half of 2018 in 18.2. Ever since then, it has been a massive work in progress, something that NetSuite has been pouring a ton of time and resources into. They're constantly changing and modifying and making the user experience much easier. Every single major release has gotten it much better. And in 2020.1, they've made probably their biggest change to date. And that's why I'm going to be showing you today the SuiteAnalytics version for 2020.1. Now, I recognize a lot of you will most likely still be today on 19.2, but I wanted to show you what's coming and what you can expect to see when you do upgrade to the newest version. So first of all, what is SuiteAnalytics? Before I get into that, please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat box. Once we're done, we're planning on saving about 15 to 20 minutes at the end of this presentation to go over any questions you have. If you want to see some other functionality, or if you just want to talk about why you would use SuiteAnalytics, please leave any questions in the chat. So SuiteAnalytics is NetSuite's answer to how can I get my data into a more easily consumable platform. I'm sure you're all familiar with save searches and reports, which are great tools within NetSuite, but they're pretty limited in their visualization of the data. They're also limited in the levels of data that you can get to. So save searches and reports both go on a single record join, meaning I can join record A to record B, and I can see information on those two records. What they've done with SuiteAnalytics, however, is enabled you to do multi-level joins. So if I want to see all of my transactions, and then I want to get down to get some information from the items, and I also want to get some information on the customers, their mailing address, their customer preference you have set on, you can use SuiteAnalytics to dig down several more layers than you're able to do in either save searches or reports. So SuiteAnalytics is based off of four essential principles. It's building your data sets, building pivots, building charts, and creating dashboards. So first off is the data set. So a data set in kind of broad terms is a way to build the entire system of data that you want to be able to look at one time. So in all the releases before this, a data set was specific to the one workbook you're working on. So every time you built a new workbook, you had to build out all of your data sets. So you had to get all of the fields you wanted to do. You had to do all of the joins you were wanting to do across different records. And you had to build that out each and every time anybody created a workbook. It was a pretty daunting task for somebody who wasn't at least somewhat familiar with database structure and the way that your records and the way that your fields are built out in NetSuite. To counteract that, NetSuite for 2020.1 has created the concept of external data sets. So this allows, if you have a more technical user, or if you want to reach out to somebody like the Vesta Group and have multiple data sets built out to get all of your data that you're wanting to look at, and then you can build your charts and your pivots off of that data set without having to have that knowledge of the database structure. You can create those ahead of time and then have all of your users utilizing those single data sets. They won't be able to modify them, but they'll be able to use them to create their own workbooks. This creates what NetSuite likes to call the single record of truth. So it prevents, if somebody is, a little more novice at creating a data set, they may have issues with their joins, or they may get data that's not relevant, and it could create downstream implications if you're using a data set that's not entirely accurate. So this allows you to create that data set as your record of truth, and build one data set that everybody can consume, and you know that the data is valid, and you know that it's reliable because it's the same for everybody. So within these data sets, you can set the desired fields that you want. You can build out any fields that you want, and it's based similarly on how a save search is built, to where you can start with a transaction or a customer record or an item record, and then build your filters, grab your fields, set criteria if you want to limit the criteria to certain sets. You can filter the values directly in the data set, can create custom formulas, and you can export the data set to Excel. So that's a nice tool that if you want to build out your data set in NetSuite, but you already have your data modeling built out in Excel, you can still use your SuiteAnalytics data set to build out that data. Then you can export it to Excel to do any modeling you want to do. The nice thing about the new SuiteAnalytics is it prevents the need to use Excel. It combines the pivot functionality that you get in Excel and the data charting and data modeling that you would get in a Tableau or a Microsoft Business Analytics, things like that. So this is their answer to having to use multiple systems. It also allows you to create custom pivots. So if you want to see all of your transactions by quarter or by month or by user, by sales rep, it allows you to create directly from the data set that you built earlier and build out your pivots directly in NetSuite. The one caveat with pivots right now is they are not exportable to Excel. So you can consume and view your pivots in NetSuite, but you cannot at this time export those pivots. It also allows you to create custom charts. So using that same data set, you can create visual representations of your charts. You can filter on the charts. You can filter by the series. The charts do allow you to export the images. So you can either print out the charts or you can export them as an image file. So you can use that to, if you're doing internal or external meetings, you can put these charts directly into your PowerPoint if you need to, or if you need to print off for your executive reporting, you can print the charts directly from NetSuite. And finally, you can create dashboards directly in NetSuite based off of your workbooks. So you can take your multiple workbooks, share them with whoever you need to, and people can put those workbooks, they can put those pivots, they can put those charts directly in your home screen on your dashboard to get a quick glance at things that you maybe need to accomplish for the day, or you want to see the sales numbers for the day in a quick graphical representation. You can set up all of those as a dashboard view and get a quick glance at it from your home screen. So with that, that's enough of theoretical. Let's jump into see a demo of NetSuite SuiteAnalytics. So again, like I said, here is my personal dashboard. I'm using this demo environment, and I'm set up as an administrator. I have set up several different types of dashboards here in my home screen that you can just get a quick glance view every day. Right here, I have my sales for Q1 of 2020 by my sales reps, separated by each sales rep. You can move these around if you want it to be in a bigger window. It's taking just a second to reload. And then you can change who you want to see. If you want to get rid of a few people and just see that, you can filter directly off of that. You can expand and get a full page view of your dashboard, so on and so forth. So we'll come back to dashboards in just a little bit, but I just wanted to give you a quick glance view at how the dashboards work. So let's start with the Analytics home. You get there by going to Analytics, click on the tab, and this is the new NetSuite Analytics 2020.1 home screen. So everybody has access to SuiteAnalytics. It's automatically provisioned in your environment. You may have to update the role permissions if you have some roles that don't have access, but all administrators have full access to view datasets, modify workbooks, and view all of that. So off the top, you see you have my favorite workbooks. If you want to add a workbook as your favorite, you can come in here and click the 3 buttons and mark this as a favorite. So then when I go into here, you can have the list of workbooks that you want to see. There's several different views. So we have it set right now on all workbooks. If I want to see my workbooks, just the workbooks that I've created, you can select my workbooks. If you have anything shared with you, I don't at this point, but if somebody shares a workbook with you, you can view it that way. Employee workbooks show you any that employees have created if you have admin rights. And then templates this is a really nice thing that NetSuite has done in the last 2 releases, is they have already gone ahead and built out several kind of base templates that you can start off of. So you don't have to build, if you're trying to get into learning about your SuiteAnalytics, you can start with some of these existing templates that they've created and build off of those, which is what I've done creating my workbooks here. You also on the next tab have your data sets. So these are all of the available data sets that have been built. These are all system built data sets plus this one that I have built. And so you can start with a data set and build a workbook off of that. So I'm going to go into, I've already got open here, one of the templates that NetSuite has created for us, and I'm using the sales invoiced workbook. So if I look at this workbook, it's built on the sales invoiced data set. If I click on this data set, this is where you can build out or modify the data set that is used for this. So you can see here, this is a transaction-based data set, and we are using all sales. We're looking for the amount, we're looking for the customer, the date, the item, location, so on and so forth, to get us an idea of all of the sales. Right now, it's not filtered out by type. So the data set right now is kind of running wide open to allow you to modify things in your own workbook if you want to see different types of transactions. So here is the document that is built out for the sales invoiced workbook. You can see in here we've got all of our dates, all of our transaction types, and then you can come in here and filter. So if I actually want to just see transaction types, I don't want to see journals, I can come in here and filter on this transaction type and say I want to see cash sales and invoices. I don't want to see credit memos or journals. I add that filter, and it will take just a second. And now I can see I have all of my invoices. If I want to go down and see just cash sales, I'm not 100% certain that there are cash sales in this, but I want to see just cash sales. I make that my only filter. And here are my cash sales. So now I'm going to get rid of that filter. I want to see everything in here. So I'm going to come in here back to the triple dots and say remove filter to open this back up. They've also added a lot of advanced date filtering. So if I want to filter on specific date ranges or relative date ranges, I can do that. So if I want to say within the last 100 days ago to today, I can apply that filter. And this filter will roll on and show you the previous 100 days every time you log into this data set. So it'll show you what filters you have. Again, it'll show you what data set you're working with. And the data set that was built out, these are the available fields. So if I want to get rid of some of these fields, say I don't care about the location, I can remove the location. I can remove promotion combinations. We don't need that. And then build out your data set. So the next functionality that we have is our pivot tables. So the pivot tables, like I said, allow you to model similarly to how you would in Excel, to model out the data that you have in this data set. Again, this is not a data set. This is just a transaction workbook that we've created in here. The pivots are going to be based off of the data set. So all the filtering we did here, if you want to see that same filtering in your pivot, you would have to refilter. So right now we've got this based on classes, locations, and items for our rows. And then we're looking at the different transaction types for our columns. And then we want to see the amount and the quantity. So we can see here that we've got for Class C, location 2, over this time period, these are all of the items that were sold. This is their amount. This is their quantity for each transaction type. And then we've got a grand total for each item here. You can collapse. Again, if you want to filter out certain transaction types, I can say filter transaction types. And I want to see just invoices. Each time you make a change on a pivot, you'll need to go in and refresh your screen to see the changes applied. And now I've got just my invoices for locations by class. If I want to get rid of class, I don't need to group by the class anymore. I can get rid of class and refresh. And then I'm going based off of just location. So if I collapse and I want to see my grand totals by location, I can see again, oh no, wrong button. I didn't save that, so I'm going to lose this, but I will go back and remove class. And again, transaction types, filter it back down to just invoices. And we've got our filters. So they've also added the concept of top 10, bottom 10. So if I want to filter and I want to see just sales orders based off of items, oh, sorry, it's not on this. I'll show you that in a second. Sorry. Okay. So that is, again, our sales by item pivot. And again, this is built out by NetSuite. This exists as is currently. I did not do anything to this one except I made a few modifications. But this is, if you want a sales by item pivot, this is available right now in your environment. Again, if I want to do a sales by customer, it's a similar pivot. And I can modify, I can change a lot of this type of stuff. Say I want to see my top 10 customers. This is what I was talking about earlier. And I want to see my top 10 customers by amount. If I go and make that filter, then now I'm showing just my top 10 customers by quarter, by year, and these are my top sellers, so, or my top purchasers. So if I want a quick glance at who are currently my best customers, who's buying the most from me, this is just a quick, I mean, this took me, like you saw, it took me less than a minute to get an idea of, by sales for the last 2 years, who are my top 10 customers. Now I can focus, if I need to, focus on these customers and make sure that they're happy, or I can look at my bottom 10 customers and say, who do I need to concentrate more on? Who do I need to start calling more and see if I can get them to do bigger sales? Again, it's just a way of quickly analyzing your data and getting a better idea of how you're performing as a company, who is doing what, purchasing, so on and so forth. Again, here are my charts. So if I want to do sales by sales rep, I've got all of my sales rep, and this is how they're performing. I previously came in here and applied the filters of Q1 of 2020. If I remove these filters and I want to see all of 2020 instead of just Q1, I can remove that filter and see my sales for all of 2020. You'll see we're still built out by quarter because I've got the x-axis broken out by quarter and year. So here's all of my sales by sales rep for Q1 and sales by sales rep for Q2 so far. Like you saw on the dashboards, you can quickly filter through these just graphically if you want to. So I don't want to see Edwin, Bert, Malcolm, Harvey, Paul, or no sales reps. So I can quickly see if I want to see just Scott. Let's see how Scott's been doing these last 2 quarters. So we can see how just this one, and that's without having to go in and filter your data set or filter within here. I could still filter if I want to build all of these back out in the same way. I could also come in here and say, I want to just filter by sales rep and just show me Bert. I refresh my changes, and now we've got a chart that's going to show us just Bert. So let me save this workbook because I want to show you, I gave you a glimpse when we first started about how, if you remember on my home, I had my sales by sales rep for just Q1. Since I've modified that and I refresh, it's going to look at what changes I've made, and it's going to honor the changes that I've made there. And now I can see that I'm looking at just Bert, and I'm looking at his sales for that year. So if you want to set up and filter to where your sales reps can add this to their chart, you can filter by sales rep and say sales rep is me. And then when they go and log in, they can see their sales for that month. So another way, let me add these filters, get rid of this filter, and bring up the full set again. And you can see we can change the type of chart we're looking at. So if I want to see instead a sideways bar chart, I can just change the chart type. If I want to see a stacked column bar chart, I can see a stacked. So a lot of different ways of modeling your data right within here, just with a click of a button. Here's another one. These are my sales over time. And again, this is all built off of just a single data set. So I haven't had to grab any additional data. I'm just using this sales invoice data set, and I'm building all of my workbooks out, all of my charts, all of my pivots out directly from here. So here I've got an area chart. If I want to see just a straight line chart, this will show me 2020 versus 2019. Again, this is a demo environment, so I don't have the full year's data for 2019. But if I wanted to see these with all of your historical data and you want to see how 2020 is comparing to 2019, just a quick, easy representation of where my sales were last year at this time and where they are this year at this time. Again, you can filter out dates, you can filter out months if you want to see just quarters instead of months. That's one way to do it. So that was sales. I want to give a quick idea of how you can use this for inventory. So again, a NetSuite based data set. They've built this data set, and this is showing all of our inbound inventory. So I'm looking for any purchase orders, any transfer orders, or any return authorizations. I'm looking not at the main line and not at the tax line and the item line. shipping cost line, and I want to see all of my incoming purchase orders. So this is all purchase orders, all statuses, and this is just the full data set for incoming purchase orders. So if I look at this, now I have this data set built out. I can add all the fields that I want to see. So I've got all of my purchase order transactions. I've got the dates they were created. I've got the transaction type. These are all purchase orders. But if I wanted to, again, if I wanted to filter out and say, show me just return authorizations, I could do that. Add that filter, and it's going to automatically update. We just have the one, so let's remove that filter. And again, I can see that this is to be fulfilled or received. I've got the quantity of each item on that transaction that is to be shipped and received. I can have my shipping date, my pickup date, the totals, the statuses, and these are all fully billed. So, but then if I go into create a pivot, and I want to say, what are all of my outstanding purchase orders that I know I've yet to receive? So I've come in here and we've got the type of just purchase order and pending receipt. So this tells me if you want to give your warehouse manager a quick and easy view of these are all the transactions that should be incoming in the next few days. You'll need to receive those. Just be on the lookout. This is what we're expecting in this purchase order. That way, when they receive it, rather than trying to go all the way to the transaction and try to map it against the transaction, if they just want a quick view, they can just get a quick pivot chart to tell them what they're looking for. So again, if I go back home, you can see this is where I've added the purchase orders to receive. And it's just a quick, easy, I can go through, if I want to say, if you add date filters in and say, show me anything that I am expected to receive today, if you're going off of an expected shipping date, you can show just what I should receive today, or what did I receive yesterday, things like that. So it's just, again, a quick and easy way to see where my transactions are, what my data is, and view all of that without having to go actually into the records. So lastly, I want to show built on, this is one that I built from scratch. The other examples I showed you were things that are already existing in NetSuite, things that you have access to right now. This is one I built out, and I wanted to show you how easy it is to build this out from scratch. So this is my data set that I've built out. It's a quick and easy item search. So it is based off of item, and I have grabbed from the item, I want the item name and number, the item class, and the total quantity on hand. So this is all of the information that is available directly on the item record. And then I also want to join it to the locations. So if I say in here, I want to join on locations, it shows me right here. So I can search here either for records or fields. There's no fields called locations, but say I want to get my location quantity on hand. I don't know what exactly the field is. I don't know where the join is, but I know that I want quantity on hand. So I can start searching for quantity on hand, and it will automatically show you the fields that match this and the records that you're doing a join to. So I'm doing the locations, quantity on hand, and that join gets me for this location, for this item, this is my current on-hand quantity. Similarly, I've joined to the location quantity available. So again, we are filtering on item, location, quantity available. And then if I have any quantity committed. So again, with this being a multi-level join, I could get down to say, okay, so I have 10 committed for this location, for this item. If I wanted to say, show me the transactions that this are committed, I could go all the way down to the transaction level and it would break out, and I'd have then, instead of one line for this item, for this class, for this location, I would then have up to 10, I don't know, this may be all committed on one transaction, but I would get all of those transactions that are on, that has a committed quantity. So all of my sales orders that are committed, or item fulfillments that have committed this item for this location. So that just shows you, again, how we can drill down several levels, getting down to get to the information that you need to see. So you don't have to go and search through all your transactions. You don't have to build 3 different save searches and drop those into an Excel and do a compare. You have all of your data, all of your joins, all in one location. So again, this is the data set. You can have your admins, or if you have a NetSuite admin, if you have a system admin, somebody can come in and create all of these data sets, and then everybody can consume that data set. So I'm building a new workbook right now, and I'm building it off of that data set that I just created. So I'm going to start with a table, and I can either drag the fields into this section, or I can double click to bring them all in. And I've built out a workbook. So with class, you can show child level only, or show the full hierarchy. I just want the child level. So here, just again, based off of this one data set, I've built out a table that shows me all of this. I can export this as a CSV file. I can consume it here. I can filter here. And this allows me to, if somebody's created this inventory data set, but I want to come in here and I'm at location 1, right? So I'm the warehouse manager for location US 1. I don't care about US 2. I can come in and filter and see just location 1. And now I've got my data set for all of the relevant items for me. So rather than having to go build out this full data set for every single user for any different location, I build one data set, then your users can come in here and build the workbooks for themselves. They can filter for themselves and see just the information that they want to see. So it's a big time saver. It makes it a lot less daunting for your users if they don't have a lot of knowledge in data structure, or in the back-end tables or joins. Somebody can build it for them, and then it's a very easy to use, very easy to consume medium. So I've built my data set. Now I'm going to build a quick pivot, and I want to have my rows. I want to have my item name and number. I want to be by location, and then I want to see what is my committed quantity for each of these items. So I've built all of this out. Once I refresh, I've got my pivot built out. Say, now I don't want to see any quantities of 0. I just want to see my quantities. I can go and filter quantity committed and say none of a quantity of 0, and refresh. Now I've got a very easy, quick view of, for US location 1, all of my items that have a committed quantity. So I can expand this out if I need to see the items larger. Again, if I want to see that based on class, I can bring in, after the fact, I can bring in class and refresh. And now I've got my filters based on class. I've got class C and class D. Class D doesn't have anything that meets those qualifications, but I've got all of my class C items. Oh, sorry, I have one item there in class D. So again, just a quick and easy way to show my pivot. So I'm going to call this, I'm going to rename this USA 1 committed by class. And this is all overall in this item workbook that I've created. Let's go ahead and make sure we save all of this so we don't lose anything. And I'm going to save this as item workbook RC. Now I've got this workbook saved. So I can rename table 1 to make sure we have it. And this is item quantity. So now finally, let's build a chart from scratch. And let's make our x-axis our item numbers and make our series based on location. And then I want to see the total quantity available. But I want to see what are my quantities available. So again, if I refresh this, these are all of my quantities available by location of all of my items that meet the criteria in this data set that I created. So again, just a quick and easy way to say, okay, clearly I have a lot of on-hand quantity for this item. Everything else is pretty standard. I know something's up with this one. I need to try and get rid of this item. I need to push this through my sales because we have a lot of on hand. I'm warehousing that. I don't need to keep that. So I'm going to call this items on hand, items available, and save this workbook. So again, I've built this whole thing out. Somebody made this data set for me. I've made a quick pivot and a quick chart in about 3 minutes. So you don't have to worry about trying to find all the fields, trying to find everything because it's already been built out for you. So now this is saved. I can share it with somebody. If I want to share it with a specific employee, I can share this with Alex Smith and share that. Or I can come here and share it with, this is my inventory, so I want to do this with my warehouse manager. So I want them to be able to see this workbook. So let's share it with Alex Smith and share it with anybody that has the role of warehouse manager. So now they have access to view this. They can update this and save it as a workbook for themselves. The one thing they will not be able to do once it's shared with them is change the data set. So the data set will stay static, but they can come in here and modify the pivots that they want, however they want it, and that's just quickly and easily shared. So again, let's go home and look at the dashboarding like I showed you earlier. We've created 2 new dashboard items. So if I want to come in here and I want to create a new analytics portlet, I go to Personalize Analytics, and then in the new portlet, set this up. And here is all of my available visualizations. So here's the one that I created, the pivot I created. So let's see the items for US1 committed by class. But I want to call this as a custom name. It's been shared with me, but I want to call it my committed items. So I can rename my dashboard directly from here without changing the name in the actual view. And now I've got my pivot table coming up, and it shows me all of my committed items by class. Likewise, if I want to set up and see that chart I just created, I'm going to go in here and set up another. And I want to see all of my charts. And let's look at, oh, I don't think I saved the chart after I built it. So let's make sure and save this. And come back into here. I'm going to refresh this to get my new items that my new chart I just created. And here I've got my items available chart that I just created, and it's available in my portlet. from my dashboard, just like that. So that is an overall view of SuiteAnalytics. I did pretty simple ideas of how you can get to your data. You can get as specific as you want. It allows for formulas, just like in a Save Search. So you can build out, complex custom formulas to create new fields based on additional fields. If you want to compare, if you want to highlight, you can do all of that same functionality, but you can also build quick, easy visual representations of your data. So with that, that is my 40 minutes. So I will go to the chat and see if we have some questions.
All right, we've got about 20 minutes until Ross heads back out in search of tacos. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And he's got about 20 minutes till he heads out. And while people are kind of getting their thoughts together on questions, I also want to let you know that we are recording the webinar. So it will be available in a few days publicly for you to share with your colleagues or anyone else you think might benefit from it. I thought it might generate who's got the best taco question, but that hadn't come up yet.
Who's got the best taco in this area? In Plano, I would say probably Taqueria Banqueta.
They're good. El Hombre.
That's my number one. Suzanne, Austin most likely
okay.
does have the best tacos. I won't.
Okay.
I won't fight you on that. I will not fight you on that.
Why do we all give in to Austin so easily?
Do what?
Why do we all give in to Austin food so easily?
Yeah. Okay. So Suzanne has asked about the preloaded workbooks. Should you be able to see them with your current login? Yes, you should. Again, if you're on 2019.2, the view will be a little bit different. It also depends on what role you're using. If you have admin role, it should be available. If it's not, we can take a look and kind of look at what your role has set up. But yes, you should be able to, as soon as, even in the old version, it looks a little bit different. But if you go into analytics, the view will look completely different, but you should be able to see all of these workbooks that NetSuite has created. There is a difference in whatever you have enabled. So if you have manufacturing enabled, there would be some manufacturing workbooks. They do have additional workbooks based on which modules you have enabled, but you should be able to see it right now. That's something that they have enabled for everybody on day one.
All right, are there any other questions? Looks like Peggy's got a question for us. It looks like it was sent private.
Okay, so the question is, can you create data sets to show comp sales? Currently have to run 2 searches.
Say that again.
Can you create data sets to show comp sales? Currently have to run 2 searches. So Peggy, it looks like you sent the chat to me privately. If you'll just change that to everyone and then resend, then Ross will be able to see it.
So I hesitate to say yes because I would have to look at it specifically, but the idea is that yes, more than likely if you're doing 2 searches now, you could combine them into one SuiteAnalytics. There are some areas that are still not available for joins. So the first one that comes to mind is applying and applied to transactions. Those are still not available as a join, so that creates some limitations. But most likely, depending on, and I'm not sure exactly what you mean by comp sales, but I would say tentatively, more than likely, yes, you should be able to combine that into one data set.